Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled, "The Sun is No Longer Shining, Surface Observations." Now, on July 20th, 2018, daylight disappeared and night fell over the course of a few minutes in a northern region of Russia. This was a time when there is supposed to be daylight for nearly 24 hours a day, as the region is situated above the Arctic Circle, and this was about the middle of the day. However, the sky did not just turn black. In many of the images, as you can see here, the sky is dark, but a reddish or pink tint can be seen as well. And you can see it's not quite dark here, it's grayish, and here you can see this reddish tint. And the locals reported the darkness had a rich yellow undertone, so that may be what it is there. In this image it looks pink. So it doesn't look quite dark, but definitely not the kind of sky that you would expect during the day, especially in the middle of the day. Now, since there were no clouds of dust seen approaching the region, the dust that was reported by the local population to be on the ground after the event must have come from above. And the pink and red coloring also indicates that stellar core dust came into the atmosphere in large quantities. And you may look at Article 291 entitled "The Sun Disappears, Day Turns into Night." Now, strange colors were also seen during and after the Hurricane Michael incident in Florida recently. The colors in the clouds could only have been produced if the clouds themselves started emitting light. In other words, the clouds became luminescent. This is something which occurs when stellar core matter enters the Earth's atmosphere. The matter is energy depleted and absorbs energy from Earth matter, resulting in water condensation, cloud formation, and light being emitted by the condensed material surrounding the stellar core matter. And you may look at Article 338 entitled "The Planet X Effect, Heating and Ionization in Contact Regions" for more details. And here you see an image that taken after the event, the Hurricane Michael event. And as you can see, there are blue clouds and there are pink clouds in the background. As you can see, this is the same cloud emitting different colors of light from different parts of it. And this cannot be due to something else illuminating this cloud. This can only be if the cloud itself is emitting light. It is a luminescent cloud. So this suggests that large amounts of stellar core matter came into the atmosphere at this time, and it led to this kind of result. And you may look at Article 377, which has many more details on that. Now, this means that the Russian event was caused by a large amount of stellar core dust entering the atmosphere at one time. But the darkness was not because the dust blocks sunlight, as this dust leads to light emission, not to the blocking of light. The large amount of dust simply caused the local sun simulation to fail. The current illumination of the Earth's atmosphere appears to be coming from sun simulators and holographic projection technology, which requires the encoding of holographic plates on the atmosphere. The encoding will, however, become jumbled if a large amount of stellar core dust enters the atmosphere, leading to holographic projection failure, and the transmission of light beams from one simulator to the other would also likely be interrupted, thus leading to illumination failure. And here's a photograph of a sun simulation device in operation in the Earth's atmosphere. As you can see, it is hexagonal and seems to be made up of an array of hexagonal mirrors. For more details, you may look at Article 226b, which is specifically about sun simulating devices. And here you see that this kind of pattern in the sky, which can only be produced if a holographic sky generation system is being used. Because here we see a large portion of the sky displaying a holographic pattern, which must be generated by blue and magenta lasers. And you may look at article 352 entitled Holographic Sky Generation System for more details. And this is a diagram that I drew for that particular article, which explains how the holographic projection system is likely to work. And what we have is a holographic or photographic plate that leads to the generation of a hologram, which is a three-dimensional image. And this plate can be produced out of metallic nanoparticles, which come from chemtrails. But then you would need sound wave generation technology to be applied to it as an instrument in order to produce the coding, in order for the gaps between the different denser portions, which is basically the coding, to have the right gaps, which would then produce a certain image. So it will be an interference pattern basically produced in the sky and then illuminated from above by lasers. Thus, it seems that the sun simulation system failed when a large amount of stellar core dust came into the atmosphere over northern Russia on July 20, 2018. The darkness prevailed for 3 hours, and that can only mean that the sun was not shining for those 3 hours. Now, what is the likelihood that the sun had turned off for the same exact 3 hours that the sun simulation system over the region failed? The likelihood is very low indeed. It is far more likely that the sun was off because it is usually off, if not always. Now, why was there some light in the sky? Why did the sky not go completely black? That appears to be because there is always some dust in the atmosphere, producing some luminescent clouds even at nighttime, which is why nighttime nowadays is never as dark as it used to be some 30 years ago. And here's a screenshot from a video by the YouTube channel Word Truth Worship, showing that the city of Cleveland looked like, showing what the city looked like in the middle of the night. As you can see, the skies were not black, they were light gray. In other words, suggesting that there was a lot of luminescent clouds in the sky above the city producing this type of illumination. And this is evidence that there is an increasingly amount of stellar core dust entering the atmosphere and causing this kind of luminescence which lights up the skies at night. This means that the light that was seen in the sky over Russia during the 3-hour event where day turned into night was about the same as it usually is during the night anywhere around the planet. In other words, there was no sunlight at all. The sun was not shining during those 3 hours, and since the likelihood that the sun did not shine for the same 3 hours during which large amounts of stellar core dust cause sun simulation failure, it is very likely that the sun does not shine for most of the time, and even perhaps all the time. Another incident occurred in Argentina in 2011. Day turned into night in the middle of the day, and you can see an image of that here. And here the sky turned black suddenly, and this was on August 12, 2011. And then the light gradually returned to the sky after a few minutes. But it turned from light, middle of the day, to complete darkness suddenly. Now, I have clearly shown that the sun goes dark during the SDO eclipse season and at other times, and you may look at article 372 entitled "The Sun is No Longer Shining, Satellite Images," where I show that in detail. But the sun goes dark over a period of a few minutes, with different regions going off sequentially. It does not go completely dark from one moment to the next. And these are the diagrams which I usually use to show that the sun is going dark, because the Earth, which here is simulated by this triangle. As you can see, the curvature of the Earth is almost a straight line in comparison with the Sun. So we can use this triangle instead of the Earth here. And as you can see, if the Earth is here, there's no way that it can cover that part of the corona. And that part of the corona is clearly missing. And as you watch from the different images, you can see that clearly the corona shrinks back as darkness progresses across the face of the Sun. It cannot be covered by the Earth, therefore it cannot be produced by an eclipse. This is the Sun going dark. And for more details, you may look at this article 372, where I show this in more detail. Now, in the case of an eclipse, the Sun does not go completely dark, nor does darkness suddenly fall from one moment to the next. This therefore suggests that there was an artificial sun simulation system over Argentina which suddenly shut off and came back on slowly. The sky turned completely dark because there was not as much stellar core dust entering the atmosphere in 2011, but it shows that the real Sun was already not shining in 2011 during this event. In addition to the evidence from the SDO eclipse season, which clearly shows that the Sun can and does go dark, there is also the observation that the atmosphere always seems to be darker blue straight above an observer, which suggests that there is only darkness above the atmosphere and that the Sun is no longer shining, most likely almost all the time, or even possibly all the time. And this is what's seen when there is not much cloud cover and you can still see part of the sky which may be blue, or maybe there is just a little bit of cloud where you can see the difference. Then if you look straight up for a distance of about 20 or 30 degrees around the vertical point above an observer's head, you can see that the sky is darker. It's darker blue or it's darker gray. And no matter what the time of the day, can be the middle of the day, the Sun is almost straight above, but that part of the sky is still darker than anywhere else. And this suggests that what is happening is that the atmosphere is being illuminated from within, but when we look straight up, we're looking through a thin portion of the atmosphere. And so the fact that it's darker beyond there is observable as a darker portion of the sky right above the head of the observer. Whilst if the observer looks in this direction, then the observer looks through a much thicker portion of the atmosphere, all of it being illuminated. So the fact that the Sun is not shining over here is not as apparent. Now, the consequence that the Sun does go dark during the SDO eclipse season is that the Sun is not powered by thermonuclear reactions from its interior, because if it did, it would be impossible for it to go dark, as there would be light coming from the Sun's interior all the time. This means that what we have been taught about how the Sun operates is wrong. So what else have we been taught that is wrong? If there are no thermonuclear reactions which are supposed to stop the Sun from gravitationally collapse, then there is no gravitational collapse. So there are no black holes in stars, and star systems do not form through gravitational accretion or collapse, as is being taught and promoted through the education system and scientific sounding programs on TV. Do you then start to wonder if anything we are being told through normal channels is the truth? Now, some people question how it is possible that the Sun is not frozen over. If the Sun is not shining, but that a large amount of stellar core matter entering the atmosphere will cause the Earth to generate more energy in a huge amount, as a huge amount of energy would be flowing from the Earth's interior. Now, the Earth's interior is at the same temperature as the surface of the Sun. The Earth generates its own heat in its core through fission, like all other objects in the universe, which is why the interior of the Earth is at such a high temperature. And you may look at Article 192 entitled Neutron Stars and Fission as a Star's Internal Energy Source for more details on this. Now here I illustrate through this diagram what happens when stellar core matter makes contact with Earth matter. Stellar core matter is low in energy, so it's like a cold object making contact with a hot object. Energy flows from the interior of the hot object towards the cold object. The stellar core matter is in the atmosphere, so energy flows from the interior of the Earth, from its core, outwards towards the atmosphere. All layers in between are experience heating, and especially the layer that is making contact with the stellar core matter will experience the most heating, which is the upper atmosphere or ionosphere. In addition, metallic nanoparticles in the atmosphere actually trap energy emitted by the Earth from its surface and thus increase the natural insulation effect of the atmosphere. And you may look at Article 223 entitled Chemtrails Increased Greenhouse Effect, indicating a weakening sun. And this is illustrated here how the Earth emits radiation. This radiation is trapped by the atmosphere, by gases in the atmosphere, but chemtrails in the atmosphere increase this greenhouse effect. Thus, even with the sun not illuminating the Earth is likely to warm up, as it seems to be doing. In addition, when heating is provided by the sun, the poles and the equator are heated by different amounts. But when the heat is coming from the Earth's core, then the whole planet is more uniformly heated. The uniform heat coming from the core would warm the oceans even faster than the atmosphere. The poles would warm up faster than the rest of the planet, and since there is only ocean at the North Pole, the ice there would melt much faster than at the South Pole. This is exactly what is occurring and is further evidence that the Earth is no longer being heated by the sun, but by its own core. In conclusion, there is now mounting evidence that the sun is no longer shining and that the powers that be have been hiding that fact from the Earth's population for some years now through the use of artificial systems which illuminate the atmosphere from within. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.